Vikas Swarup, it's great to have you with us here on Showcase today. So you're a writer and former diplomat, and your debut novel, Q&A, was later adapted into the movie Slumdog Millionaire. And that became a box office hit. It won many awards, including 8 Oscars. So I'm wondering, how did it feel, and did you expect such success with your first novel?
No, I certainly did not, Esra Hanum, because I wrote this novel in just 2 months when I was posted in London. This is at the end of 2003. And when I was writing it, I had no idea that this very Indian story that I am writing would appeal to a global audience. But perhaps there was something about the story of this luckless orphan who gets to participate in a quiz show and becomes the winner that struck a chord with people across the world, because now it's been translated into 47 languages. Uzbek was the latest one. And the fact that, readers have responded to this novel in such a big way all across the world has been a matter of great satisfaction for me. And of course, the fact that readers in Turkey have also responded to this novel adds to my pleasure at being here in Turkey and speaking to you today.
Yes, thank you so much. We all love that. But we don't usually see many diplomats writing fiction, actually. And you tackle social and current issues still, but it's still fiction. And how did your journey start?
Yes, so actually I'm one of those writers who never had the opportunity to go to a creative writing workshop. I didn't even have English literature as my subject. I was always a reader, and it was the 35 years of reading that I did that enabled me to make the transition into being a writer. And that's why I always tell young people when I address them that if you want to be a writer, first be a reader. Because only when you are a reader, you will know and understand the value of words and how words are placed and the manner in which they are placed. And you will differentiate between what is good writing and what is bad writing. So for me, that's how the journey started. I was posted in London at that time. And some of my contemporaries in the Indian Foreign Service were trying their hand at fiction. And they were my inspiration, because I said, hang on, I never imagined this person could be a writer, but he's a writer, so can I also be a writer? So I wrote this book really in complete secrecy as a test against myself, that can I be a writer? Do I have a story within me? And at that time, Who Wants to Be Millionaire was a top-rated game show in 110 countries across the world, including, I believe, in Turkey. And that's how this idea came to me. I said, why don't I have a contestant who has street knowledge as opposed to book knowledge, and see how that goes? And that's how Q&A was born.
Your other novel, Six Suspects, was also adapted, this time for a TV series on Disney+. And do you think filmmakers are chasing your stories, or why do you think that may be?
I think one reason that people have told me is that I write in a very visual way. So when you read the words on the page, you can already visualize that scene in your head. And perhaps that's why the transition from the book into film becomes easier with my novels, because I've written 3 novels only. The first one became Slumdog Millionaire. The second one became The Great Indian Murder on Disney and Hulu. And the third one, The Accidental Apprentice, has also been optioned for either a film or a web series. So maybe the fact that I have a visual imagination, I write very visually, appeals to them. But more than that, I think my stories are very fast-paced, fast-moving, and yet they have an emotional core. I think that is probably what attracts filmmakers to those stories.
Will you ever consider to become a filmmaker, let's say from writing to directing?
I don't know. I think directing is a very different kind of a thing from writing. What I like about writing is that you can write what you want to write. But as a director, as a script writer, you have to write by committee. Somebody says, put in this, put in that. You don't have that kind of freedom that you have as a writer. So for the moment, I think I'm going to stick to being a writer. But of course, if somebody offers that, why don't you direct a film? I would always take up that challenge.
So I don't know about you, but to be honest, I can say we're all consumed by social media. So people, want to watch movies rather than reading books. And what's your comment on that?
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. I would say the image has overtaken the word. That's really what is happening. And especially with the kind of options that are available to us when you sit in front of the TV, you have Netflix, you have Prime Video, you have Disney, and you have a whole universe of entertainment at your fingertips. And that probably, encourages some people that, just sit in front of the idiot box and watch what's being beamed to you. But that's, I think we are doing ourselves a disservice. Because you see, the advantage of books is that when you read the words on the page, you imagine those words in your own head. And you can imagine them like you want them to. When you read a Harry Potter book, for instance, you can imagine yourself as Harry Potter. But when you watch the film of Harry Potter, then you cannot do that because Daniel Radcliffe is Harry Potter. And that little dialogue that you have, within your head, that space is gone. Your brain is colonized by the image, so to speak. So I think, yes, films have their own space, but nothing can replace reading. And I always say that, it is through books that the entire universe is contained in the world of books, and we should not lose touch with that universe.
So you're familiar with Turkey, we can say, as you worked here in the past. So do you find any similarities between Turkey and India in terms of literature? And I'm also wondering about your Turkish favorite artists and writers.
Well, when I was posted in Turkey, the artists at that time, I don't know whether the young Turkish readers or Turkish youth are relating to that, because at that time, Sezen Aksu was my big favorite. Zerrin Özer was a big favorite. Cem Karaca was a big favorite. But my absolute favorite used to be Barış Manço. And his song, Domates, Biber, Patlıcan, that was my absolute favorite. My wife and I used to enjoy watching a series on TV called Kim Bunlar. It was a comedy series that was also very good. We enjoyed the football matches between Beşiktaş and Galatasaray and Fenerbahce. So, this visit back to Turkey after 30 years is a trip down memory lane, so to speak. And we are reliving all the things that we missed all these days. But the thing I missed the most was Turkish food. Because, we are absolute fans of Turkish cuisine. Iskender kebab was my favorite, is still my favorite. And I'm so looking forward to sampling all these delicacies during my stay here.
Amazing. So what kind of stories do people want to hear these days?
I think, people's tastes have changed quite a bit. So many new genres have come in, science fiction, fantasy, etc., which did not really exist 35, 40 years ago in the way they are existing now. But at the end of the day, I think people are looking for a good story. It does not matter what genre you're writing it, as long as you're writing a gripping story, a story with an emotional core where people can relate to that character. I think people would be interested in that kind of a story, whether you set it in Pandora or whether you set it in Istanbul. It does not matter. As long as you write a gripping story with gripping characters, people will relate to that.
And I'm also wondering about your muse, your inspiration, maybe cities like Mumbai.
My muse really is, everyday life. If you look at all three of my books, they are about ordinary people placed in extraordinary situations. And the advantage of living in India is, we are a nation of 1.4 billion people, which means we are a nation of 1.4 billion stories. Everyone has their own story. And just reading the Indian newspaper for one day can give you ideas for 5 or 6 different plots. So that's what I love about, India, the fact that, we have so much happening all the time that can inspire any reader, any writer to create something new.
Well, last but not least, can you give us a hint about your upcoming projects? What are you writing these days?
Since I became an emekli diplomat, a retired diplomat, I have had more time to devote to writing, and I'm working on a new book. I will not reveal much beyond saying that it is also set in India, and it's a female character, a female protagonist. Because I think I'm attracted to female characters because, I think they have that mixture of strength and vulnerability, which you do not find in male characters as much. And that's what attracts me to them. And I'm very close to finishing it. So fingers crossed, I hope I finish it soon.
Can't wait to read it. Thank you so much for this lovely conversation.
It was my pleasure indeed. Thank you so much for having me.